Hello good people, but now you know the deal. If the camera angle is off, it's not by design. I'm blind and it comes with the territory. Goodness, South Africa would be such a different place if there was indeed a unity formation of some sorts beyond what we have currently in Parliament amongst the progressive forces. Not that there aren't any shift in politics or anything of the sort currently, but just imagine, for a moment, just think about it. Think about it. Imagine if your EFFs, your MKs, your ATMs, etc., came together for a common cause. Imagine how these by-elections would be giving us or telling us a slightly different story, because resources would be spent to test certain patterns of behavior for voters. Like, take Ward 24 in Johannesburg, for instance, right? I believe Wafar got like 800 and something votes there. MK got over 1,000 votes. Fine, I mean, Gokoko, they got over 2,600 votes. For a moment, indulge me though. Suppose EFF and MK votes were together. Imagine how that would shift the dynamic. Yes, numerically, there'd still be less than Kwakoko, but think of the ground. Think of how that energy may have and could have and probably would have led to even more votes. It's interesting how moods shift when there's some coordination and organization and mobilization of forces. But apparently South African politicians just don't get it. We just don't get it. We don't want to do it. I don't know, maybe someone can just offer Faru the world. I don't know. Something needs to get done. Maybe we can speak to the IEC and say, allow for Twitter to be a legitimate voting center, a VD, voting district. And maybe that would just make Faru feel a little bit better and maybe promise him riches beyond his imagination, and then we can carry on. You see, the whole thing about the disunity, it's not about it showing who is better than who. It really doesn't. And it also is not about outsmarting, outwitting, and gaining electoral support and showing popularity and being the chief, so to speak. In this day and age, it's a matter of life and death. It's really that simple, that straightforward. It's that obvious. And look, overall, it's not going to yield the type of political atmosphere that some, particularly those who are for disunity, are hoping for. It's not. It really doesn't, because you are simply vying for a position to be seated at a table at a time when people are looking for support, right? Because, look, we know, for example, that the EFF, if it could, it will join the GNU. I think it has indicated enough that they are hoping for that. And if it can happen, why should it not happen? So, in any event, in any voting situation, it should be assumed that given its declaration of the MK as its number one enemy, it's likely then to partner with the ANC. So it's a quid pro quo situation where the EFF will say, all we want from you is this, ANC, and we'll give you your vote. And that's the type of scenario that they're hoping for. The only thing that the EFF is currently doing for being against disunity at this point in time is slowing the progression of that unity, of that coalescing amongst forces. It's stalling that progress, which then of course buys time for those who are truly opposed to the unity. So in that sense, it's strategic. But what will be, it's inevitable. And that is what I spoke about in my previous video, somewhat. I touched upon it. But yeah, so the world is such that we are still debating about who's the most liked. And we also have Twitter wars about who is sleeping with who looks like what and what and what and what. And yeah, it's the state of politics, at least from one political party. I was thinking, and this is as a result of Sizwe Sikamusi, right? Dope brother, that is. Very intellectual, thinking, well thought out, deep research. Check out his stuff. I think his account is at Sizwe Lo, L-O, on X. And he wrote two pieces. Of course, he got a bit of backlash for this. The one was about the EFF, given its current state after 12 years. And the other was about the MK. There's a lot that he gives people to think about, but two things stood out for me. And at the time when I actually put together tweets on one of the points, I had not read this piece. And the one was about the dwindling support for the EFF, and that the popular sentiment that the EFF had is going, right? And in the elections to come, we will see to what extent it has gone, right? I still think that it enjoys some support at this point in time, but I totally agree that that burst of energy is no longer there for the EFF. And there are numerous reasons for this, right? And we can go through this list at another time. But ultimately, what we will see happening, and this is what Sizwe also intimates, is that EFF is essentially going to become a bougie-like radical formation that is simply founded on its we are smarter than everybody else around us, and we will smoke pipes and talk about the revolution but never do anything about it because, we've got the PhDs and the master's degrees and the foundational degrees to be able to hypothesize and theorize and philosophize about these things till kingdom come, right? And it will become that. And that's simply a party of middle class blacks. And I think as we see the ANC disintegrate more and more, some of the middle class of the ANC will find expression within the EFF because those types still exist within the ANC. In fact, those are the type of people who've been supporting the EFF since its establishment in 2013? Whilst there'll be others within the ANC that will probably go to the Democratic Alliance. And, it's just so unfortunate. Like, everybody else in the world seems to be dealing with bread and butter issues. Whereas in South Africa, we can sum up our politics in such a way. We've got your Action XA, who are pretty much like your black sash type of whites mixed together with blacks, right? That's what they are, liberal, a bit out there, and trying to push the let's all get together type of thing, but removed from the hardcore issues of South Africa. They mean well, but come on, if you're black and you got white friends, you kind of get my drift, right? You do get my drift. And then you've got your EFFs who will tell you about being the children of Mama Winnie Mandela. Yet when you look at them, they're like, we are constitutionalists, we believe in this law, everything is fine, it's just that we need to fix. And you're like, is that the spirit of Mama Mandela? How's that so? I mean, we're talking about a revolutionary woman here, right? A woman that's challenged an entire system, and even post-94, she was not happy with the dispensation that we currently have. Constitution and all. She wasn't. So, think about that. Then you have the Gwazists, right? Your MK. They kind of low-key with it, trying to work the ground, building slowly but surely, and hoping one day that they will upend the system. I've talked about that as well. So the main critique thus far about the MK has been their inactivity, supposedly so, in Parliament. And Sizwe speaks about this as well. So Sizwe's contention is that there's no point for the MK to make a big deal of Parliament politics. I agree. I actually agree, even though people don't understand it, right? There's this question that people often make, even the MK supporters and voters and members, like, I'm angasiniboni lapha eParliament, kenzakalani ngani? And Caesar gets flack for having this view that Parliament is essentially disconnected from the ground. And it's true, actually. Why? You just have to look at some of the surveys that look at the issue of trust in institutions in South Africa. Parliamentarians, the presidency / parliament, are amongst the institutions that are least trusted. So what do you expect then? What are you hoping for? So it's not a far-fetched perspective that Sizwe holds. But here's the thing where I slightly disagree or contradict Sizwe, is that I think MK could use Parliament strategically. I don't think it needs to get itself involved in every minutiae of Parliament and waste its resources there just for show, right? Because if you employ the EFF strategies that you'll make noise and then you won't have it your way because you know that you don't have the votes, and then you'll quickly run to a court and then wait 2-3 years for an outcome and so on and so forth. Yes, it did not happen particularly with the VAT hike matter, but generally that's the trend, right? It's a waste of time, and essentially, what are you telling people? That your lives will be sorted once you are in the grave. I do think that the MK should take some of the basic issues that people are discussing on the ground, the low-hanging issues, and use them in Parliament to expose the GNU, the Grand Coalition between the Democratic Alliance and the ANC. It's good for PR for them, but they won't probably do that. And it's something that will entice some of this very little percentage, few people that are in the middle class, right? It's not that you necessarily need them, but they make noise enough on mainstream media and all those type of things to discuss and debate the issues that you've raised in Parliament. But they need to be things that resonate with the ground. They can't be abstract. They can't be far removed. So talk about things that people will make you feel like you're stupid. Let them laugh at you for raising it. Talk about the struggles of farm workers, for example, right? Talk about the issues experienced by laborers, by domestic workers. Talk about these issues. Why? Because you are building a movement and you're telling people that we don't want this anymore, and the only way that this can end is if we change the system. But anyway, that's the state of politics in South Africa at present. We've got essentially 3 different worlds, and these worlds inevitably will collide. It's going to be a huge fight, right? We've got the world of the Afrikaner fake news grouping who are claiming a genocide, nonsensical as it is, and they want a stake. You have the world of the globalists, and I would argue that Kwafaru somewhat feature in this world, and then you have the world of the nationalists. What an interesting world it will be when it all comes to a head. Do you agree or disagree?